Okay, we're on. This is the post household pandemic podcast. My name is Eric. This is Carol. We're flirting with realities.
All right.
And we call it that because we don't know what reality is or what that means.
Especially, you just make up your own reality, or do you?
That's all made up. There's no such thing. There's a collective reality, I guess. I don't even know what that means really, because collective reality is just something we all agree on, but are we actually agreeing on that? Or is there just somebody that said, this is what I think, and we all go, yeah, I think so too, I guess. Maybe.
Maybe. I was watching Matrix 4 yesterday, and I didn't like it the first time I saw it, but the more we've watched the other ones and have been analyzing it, I actually was really getting into it. I had to stop it, though, because I wasn't paying close enough attention to it. So I need to go back and start it over. But that's really, like, if you get involved in that series, it can really be a way of looking at reality and watching those movies and going, whoa, it could be like a fucking guide to life in many ways.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I got a couple things to say about that. The first thing is, I think The Matrix 4 was kind of like a bummer movie, but I'm wondering if it's kind of like, do you remember Godfather 3?
Vaguely.
Godfather 3 was kind of like Michael was weak and like the storyline was but it was actually perfect because that's the way, from my understanding, is he wanted the movie to turn out, is because, like, for me as the viewer, I wanted Michael to be awesome and the Godfather, like his father was, and all good like that. But it was made to be toned down because like that's what the drama was. And it's like, and once I understood that, it's kind of like Matrix 4. It's kind of like, oh, and that's kind of what we were learning about, is like, oh, the architect and the oracle are all one, and it's all kind of like, it's all just kind of like that. And so, I mean, I only watched it once, but I'm kind of figuring that's what it is. But
it's a totally different movie now to me that we've revisited The Matrix so much, especially since doing this. And I was really getting into how he created that modal, which had Morpheus in it. And then Morpheus was a software program, and he brought him to reality. But since we've watched it just within the last month, we were talking about how that reality likely isn't base reality. So I was also seeing that in a different way. So, yeah.
well, and that was the other point I was going to make about all of his, is like, it's weird because I think, like, I don't even know what is happening these days, and this is flirting with realities. But it's kind of like, if you today you watch a series like The Matrix, and it really like changes your reality. It has changed my reality.
Mine too.
And it has made me look at life in a totally different way. And it's almost like it's brainwashed me in a way, or like changed my perspective. Because I'm to the point right now where I truly think that we're in a type of a matrix. I'm not saying like we're in the movie and we're not in pods. I'm not saying that, but I have come up with a theory that we are actually in a matrix, and I have it all kind of laid out of how I feel like we as humans are tools, not to AI, but to, the man, and how we're being used for our energy and all that stuff. And I think it's actually, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm too far gone, but I feel like it's actually true.
Well, I see it a different way, but for sure, I still see it as a matrix of sorts. But that we're all here, um, and we're all basically one thing, and God is inside of you, in everyone, and your journey here is, I don't know if you want to call it becoming a light enlightenment, but basically God is experiencing the world through everybody. And it's a matrix of sorts. And any spiritual guru says it's a matrix. So I mean, I think it is a matrix.
Well, the thing I was actually thinking about this just a minute ago before we started this, and the thing is like I was thinking about how weird it is. You know, we talk about like the devil inside of you, and like how like there's this thing that directs you where to go. And if you're not very conscious of it and you don't fight it, basically like your life's just a story and you just watch it and it's just everything's controlled. And it's like, what is that? You know, like where does that come from? And then I was even thinking about like my life, how it feels in the last month or two is like, I can't get anything done. You know what I mean? And it's like, how, like, I get if there's one or two things you're working on, you can't get anything done. But like when it's just continuous, you can't get anything done. Or when you try to make improvements, like I've been talking about, like you try to start meditating and then all of a sudden like weird stuff happens where it doesn't allow you to, or like, you know, it's like, what is this? Like, what is happening? Is this just all just me just like paying attention to something and that's why I think something's happening? Or is there actually like a system of control that's going on?
Well, do you think that maybe the universe could test you? Do you
Well, what
believe
is the
that?
universe?
I mean, I think it's an individual thing. I don't think that I can answer that for you. That's my opinion.
We'll answer it for you.
I think the universe is God. It is this creator. It is the same thing that controls that mule, that if you get on a mule, it can sense the direction that you want to go. It is this all encompassing thing that makes up this. We're all created from atoms. We're all like the same atoms that are in me are in that table. It's all the same thing. So I think the universe is just like a supreme intelligence, is the best way I can put it to answer your question, because I felt I was kind of like looping around, but that's the best human description I can come up with to give you an answer.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I don't know, especially if you start talking about the matrix and you start talking about digital realities and virtual realities and you know, I mean the interesting thing is like I've always been pretty like there's no God in my life, and then we watched something that was talking about, it was like the Matrix or something, and it just talked about like what if, you know, like what if our reality, like what if we're a video game and we're just characters in it. And what if somebody created this video game and that person who created the video game is God? And I was thinking about that and it kind of made kind of weird sense to me because I've always been like, why would you worship a jealous God? Why would you worship a God that like kills people? Why would you worship a God that floods the earth? Well, and I still don't know why you would worship him. But my bigger question is like, how could somebody be a God that's so flawed? And that's the perfect explanation. Is it's some nerdy programmer guy in some other dimension, and he's jealous and he floods your worlds and all this shit. And that could be God. And whether or not God is a good person or a bad person is not the question. It's just some guy that made the place up. That's what God is. He doesn't have to be a perfect thing. And so like that kind of made sense to me. And I'm like, oh man, like that could totally be what God is. It could be this creator of a program or something. It's just like, I don't know, but like that's like something I'd like to figure out. That seems like it's impossible, is to figure out like what is actually going on here. What are we? Where have we come from? Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, the funny part is I feel like I will actually figure it out. I feel like I feel like that's what we're all going through right now. Is I think we're all of a sudden becoming aware and going like, what? Like, what is happening? And like, we're all going to be able to see like what is happening, because everything has become so apparent that there's none of this is fucking normal or right. And I think we're all going to be like, oh, okay, well, I get it now that we're in a virtual reality.
I mean, I agree with you. I think that's what Aaron talks about, transitioning to 5D. I think that some people will stay in 3D reality, and then there's the people that you're talking about who will become aware and be in 5D reality and understand some things that are happening. And it's a matter of, do you want to stay in this 3D reality, or do you want to move on? That's what I think.
Yeah, I don't get it. It's everything's so weird right now. Everything's so weird, including, like, that's what I'm saying, even myself. Like, I feel like that's what I'm telling you, is like I'm trying to figure out, well, I can see other people's parts in all this plan. There's people that are just like zombies and they just follow along and they just do as they're told. And I'm like, well, what's my part? Because there's, I guess COVID's the easiest one to talk about, because there's like, I'm a masker and we mask and we protect each other. And then there's like the other part of the people that were like, I love Donald Trump and like, I love God. And there's conspiracy, there was like just two different parties, and like, I didn't fit in, but I'm trying to figure it out, because I do fit in somewhere. Like, there's a plan for me. And I've had this talk with you too. I guess I'm going on a rant here, but I think part of this plan is to drive people crazy. And I think that was easily done with the hardcore COVID people. They lost their mind immediately, especially if you weren't wearing a mask and protecting them. They lost their shit. But then, like, the Trump people and like the freedom fighters and all that stuff, they were right behind them. They lost all their shit. And that's what I'm saying, is like, all of a sudden now we have these weird ideas. Like, I mean, like, what, like flat earth gets to me. Like, I don't know why we even talk about flat earth. Like, what, who cares? But there's people that are believing in that. And then like the trans thing, like, I feel like I'm a woman, but I have a penis. And it's like, well, what the fuck are you talking about? And then like there's people that like, they think they're dogs, and like, it's just, oh, what are you talking about? And so I'm like the guy that like loses my mind because I'm watching everybody else lose their mind. And that, this is what flirting with reality is, right? We've all lost base reality. There is no base reality anymore. We do not agree on reality. So what is base reality if we don't agree on anything?
Can you have your own base reality?
I don't know if you can, because that's what reality is. The definition of it is, right? I mean, a crazy person could think that there's a blue monster in the room, and that's their reality. But is like, I think you got to have like something to check it on and be like, am I in reality? Is there a blue monster here? Or
why do you think that? Like, it has to be a consensus type thing?
well, I think that's what might make you go feel like you're crazy, and I think that's where I'm at, is because when I'm just basing it on myself and you, and literally that's it. Thank God we agree on most things. But like family and friends, I can't even. People in society, people I see at the grocery store, I cannot base any of my reality off of them anymore. And so it makes me question my reality, because, I mean, like, if you're walking around and you're like, hey, the sky is blue, and then this guy over here is like sky is red, and then this person like sky is purple, this guy's like sky is yellow. Like you're like, whoa, I don't like, it just kind of like makes you go like, what are you talking about? And then I think that's what like flat Earth does to me is like I just go like, what are you guys talking about? Like, what are you talking about? The sun doesn't rise and it doesn't set. Like, what are you like? This isn't reality. And like, that's what messes with me. And I think that's the whole entire plan is
What's the
to,
point?
well, I don't know. I don't know. It's, I don't think we get to know that information right away. But did you hear about this bridge stuff that's happened? I've caught like a glimpse of it.
What is it?
All right, so there's this cargo ship, I guess, and
Oh yeah, my dad briefly told me about it. I think
so this
it
cargo,
hit the bridge.
yeah. Well, so I watched the video of it, and like this cargo ship is going underneath a bridge, and I guess it loses power or something. They're doing an investigation. Nobody knows what happened, but it loses power, and then it gains power, and then you see like tons of smoke from like generators or the engine or what, I don't know what it is, and then it loses power again, and then it just kind of turns and runs into the bridge beam, and it crashes the whole entire fucking bridge, right? And so like this bridge goes down, and it's like, what was that? I was talking about like this bridge thing, but anyway, there's like I saw this bridge thing, but then there's people that are like, is it a coincidence that this ship ran into a bridge and collapsed it, and then there was another bridge in the country that the ocean went over the top of it in the same day, and then there was also another bridge that had a fire underneath of it, a brush fire that didn't do anything. And it's like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? What are you guys talking about? This has nothing to do with fucking anything. Like you're just talking about like things that happened in the world in the same day that related to bridges. Of course, this is just, who cares? But it's like this is what I'm saying is it's all. But somebody made that post is my point, I guess, about three different bridges having three different issues, and I can't imagine anybody would bring that up because it was an actual thought. It's like it had to been created to confuse people and make people believe in weird shit.
Do you think it could be someone that's just trying to be intriguing and controversial?
No, and the reason I don't is because it was years ago. I was listening to Joe Rogan, and he had somebody on. I think it might have been like CIA or something. I think it was somebody from the CIA, but they were talking about how most Facebook groups are run by like I don't know how to say it, like people from like third world countries or whatever. But like what they do is I told you to listen to this because it was like mind blowing. This was years ago. Might not remember it, but basically what happens is these people start this group, and it's called baking brownies or whatever, right? And so they get a ton of people that are into baking brownies, and you get like 50.
The Russian thing.
It might have been Russia, it might have been China. I don't know. But you get like 50,000 people that like baking brownies, and they'll join the group. They're talking about baking brownies. And then all of a sudden they flipped the name of the group into like black people suck. And then all of a sudden it looks like it's a big group, and then more people join it that are racist against black people. But that's what all these groups are doing is they're like growing all these like-minded people. And then that was part of the podcast too, is all of a sudden this group will say, we're going to meet at Arbor Park to have a rally against black people. But meanwhile, there's like a black power group, and they're like, we're going to meet at Arbor Park to have a rally. And then they just all of a sudden randomly, like both groups that are obviously against each other join in this park. This is all planned.
It's just a good reason to stay off social media.
No, for sure. But my point is that it's all orchestrated. This is all orchestrated for chaos and for. That's what I'm saying is like, where did flat Earth come from? Who brought this up? And why did it catch on? You know what I'm saying? But it's not just flat Earth. It's this other stuff they're talking about, like Tom Hanks is a pedophile and he eats babies or whatever, and he's at Guantanamo Bay and he's actually dead now. So is Obama, and all this shit, and but it's not the Obama you see today isn't the real Obama. It's a digital Obama, and it's just like, fuck, are you guys talking about? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not playing into all that, I guess.
Well, but then the catch is some of it's real, But anyway, my point is there's definitely orchestrated stuff out there
For sure.
to take people out of reality. And when you just take the COVID thing again. Like, you got to protect me with your mask, and I'm not wearing a mask. We're I don't know what the numbers are, but let's just call them 50-50. Now you have 50 people in this reality and 50 people in this reality.
Yeah.
So you have a great division, and then defund the police and the black, all that stuff was like to get us all out of our logical reality, I think, and to disagree with each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. It's like to confuse us, but it's there's just so much to the picture. Is like, how come I was thinking about the pyramids, and we've all kind of known, yeah, the pyramids are amazing. We don't know how they were built and all this stuff. But you never put any weight into it. And I put weight into it now, and I'm like, so what happened? How were these? We have no idea how the pyramids were built. They would have taken us millions of years. We wouldn't have been able to move the blocks. They were moved from hundreds of miles away, and it's all this what is happening?
Yeah.
But this is what I'm talking about. With the Matrix, is who are these people? Who are these people that made these pyramids? Where'd they go? What happened? You know? And I was even thinking about something else. Is they always talk about how Rome fell,
Mm-hmm.
and we visited Rome, and the thought I've always had about Rome falling is, when Rome fell, what happened? What are you talking about? Because Rome is still there. So you're just talking about how awesome Rome was, and then it kind of went not so cool.
Well, yeah, I think that's what it is. Basically, let's just look at something similar today is the United States in the 80s compared to it now and where it's going. Could possibly be that the United States has fallen in a few years. That's just an example. All the people are still here, right? But maybe the dollar collapses and people are homeless and there's a housing crisis, and that's a modern version of.
Yeah, I don't really know my history, so maybe I shouldn't talk about it, but I don't know. It just seems like Rome is I don't know. It's something that, I don't know. Something that happened, kind of like what's happening now, or what might have happened with Egypt and the pyramids and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's what they're talking about, this great reset, and it's they're you can watch the History Channel, and that Graham Hancock guy, he always talks about these giant structures that had to have made by giant fucking people or something. Even our cranes and stuff couldn't lift these blocks that these buildings are made of, and it's so was that what happened to all those people? Is they all had a fall? They all lost touch with reality? What? Because that's what happened with Rome, basically, right? Is everybody lost touch with reality? Or no? I don't know.
I wouldn't say that.
Well, what happened?
I mean, it's just like a fall of a civilization, just like when, let's say, King Henry loses, you know, the throne. But it's a fall of a empire type situation.
But I guess that's weird, because isn't Like everything's just mental. And so it's like the fall of mentality, right? Isn't that what you're talking about? Even if you're talking about money, money's still mental. It's just a thought.
Well, if you take a look at Portland, I think that's a good example of a fall of a civilization.
Mentality. They're crazy. They have been for years.
Yeah.
It's a very appropriate place to start the fall is Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, Los Angeles. Very appropriate.
Yeah.
People are crazy. There's other crazy people, but I don't know. I guess that's all I'm saying is like I feel like that's where we're at is like it's a design to get us to not like it's orchestrated. Like there wants to be a fall, but for what? Like why are we doing this?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some involvement.
Well, just look at COVID.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, there was involvement.
Yeah.
But that was another interesting thing I saw is they were talking about how Greece was the place and then it fell. Rome was the place and it fell. United States place and it falls. And then we're just going to move it around. Go to China now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe it is kind of like the Matrix. I mean, because Zion falls 6 times or whatever it is.
Yeah.
4 times. I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
Maybe we should try to move to China. Maybe that'd be a good move.
China's beautiful.
Well, what if you went to China and it was the next United States? You'd be like, hey, that was smart of me.
Well, I mean, is it a dictate? It's socialism, right? Or
Yeah.
a dictatorship? I can't remember.
A socialist.
Korea is the dictator.
Yeah, South Korea.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, who does know? But I guess China, like my thought would be the same thing as you go live in China. I don't know. And actually, I guess that's a thought I had too. Is I was like, well, how do you get out of all this shit? And like, I was thinking, like, so what if we went to Alaska and you literally like homesteaded 1,000 miles away from anybody else, just you and me? Now, what is reality? Reality is what you and I say reality is.
For sure.
And like, even if you didn't say you didn't come with me, like reality would be what I fucking say. Well, me and the bears and the fish,
Yeah.
we all decide what reality is.
Yeah.
But I was thinking I was thinking like, how interesting would that be? Is like, because we talk about moving when my kids are grown, and like, how interesting would it be to go completely fucking remote where there's nobody else? You don't watch. There's no news. There's no social media. There's none of that shit going on. You just live in the middle of nowhere. And what would it be like to have zero control or not be controlled at all?
Well, yeah, because you wouldn't if you have zero news, zero influence. Like, we don't watch the news, but of course, like my dad mentioned this bridge thing. I had no clue what he was talking about, but I can kind of piece it together when you start mentioning, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's, just because I don't watch the news doesn't mean I don't hear like bits and pieces of things that
Yeah, but you hear the
happening.
big shit. You hear the big shit. You don't hear there's all the small stuffs, I think, what gets to you.
Yeah. So yeah, it would be a completely different reality.
Well, wouldn't it be a trip though to be like in the middle of nowhere and like World War III could literally be happening. Everybody could be bombing everybody, and you're just like, dum, chopping some wood, like whatever.
Yeah.
That'd be nuts.
It would be nuts. I mean, I think we have a tiny resemblance of that here to me because we don't watch the news and
yeah, but I mean,
I stay off. So I literally, the only thing I see is thumbnails when I turn the TV on and we have YouTube on, or I do. So I have like very little influence. I do see my news feed, but it's mostly health, like microgreens and it's not really news. It's like Andrew Huberman stuff or
Yeah. Well, that's another thing's like that's it's just interesting to me. Like we haven't had a podcast and we took 2 weeks off. We've both been super sick. And like I have been sick and it's less like sort of, upset stomach, headache. It's not that kind of stuff. It's been like mental like negativity, which is so interesting to me. So interesting to me that like I can get a virus and it makes me negative. But one interesting thing, and I told you about this, is I mean, I've been off Facebook for when did you get off your phone? January 1st?
basically January 1st.
So it's been a while. Like I've been off social media for a couple months at least. And I got this cold, and I told you I don't know what happened, but I was just scrolling Facebook. And I was scrolling Facebook and I was like, I want to get off of here so bad. I don't even want to be on this right now. And I could not. I could not stop scrolling. I did not have the energy or the willpower or anything. And that's super interesting, I think.
Yeah.
So that's where I saw like a lot of my Facebook. I got caught up on everything.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know, it's just interesting, man. And like we talk about, how come I don't get a cold? And I'm like, man, everything's so great. I'm so happy. Like,
I did pretty good this time being sick. Normally I'm like very hard on myself for just being ill. I did have a tough day or two though, so mentally.
It was a pretty brutal cold, right? Like a couple weeks long, and man,
Yeah,
I just
mine
no
was a little
motivation.
over 2 weeks. Yeah. The hair for me.
So I mean, there you go. We should have worn a mask.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, neither am I. I'll take the cold.
Me too.
But it was interesting too because you had it a whole week before me, and then I got it a week later, but it was a totally different symptoms, totally different duration.
Yeah.
It was like it couldn't have been the same cold. Oh, and by the way, if anybody like, I know there's like one person that watches our YouTube videos, but
I think it's 4 to 6.
yeah, but we talked about not using soap when showering to get your bacteria on your skin going, and I was on fire. Like I've never avoided.
I know he was convinced that he.
Well, no, I'm still though, because listen to this. So I've never avoided a cold in my life. If I know somebody that's had a cold and they're around me, I get that cold. And this was the first time ever, and I had not showered with soap in, what do you think, 2 months, maybe?
It's been a while.
2 months. And I avoided 2 colds. It's the first time I've ever done it. 2 colds in a row. And I was avoiding this one too. And then my dumb ass took a shower, and I'm like, I think I should use some soap because it's been a really long time since I used some soap. And that's when I got sick. So I'm just saying, I'm never using soap again. I don't even care. I
think we have magnesium in our cold bath.
Yeah. But I think the more I've been thinking about this skin bacteria flora thing, the more I'm into it. I'm completely into it.
You know, I've been doing this since childhood. Like
Yeah.
I do use soap occasionally on my armpits. There are times I use a little bit of soap, but
Why? Because you're like really stinky one day or something?
Yeah. Yeah, like if I worked out and have massive BO, I'll just like mash some on my armpits. But other than that, like I don't soap up my entire body. I never have done that.
I know, but like this is what I'm saying about getting weird now, is because now I'm like, well, if I shampoo my hair and then I rinse it, the shampoo runs down my body, and it's going to be taking my bacteria away.
Well, maybe you could have like a natural hair rinse or something that you could find that doesn't get rid of microbiome or anything.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm talking about getting weird though, because like,
or you wash your hair upside down.
well, why even wash your hair?
Well, mine gets matted and like knots in it. I won't go into extreme details, but working out and yeah,
And soap cures that?
well, the soap and the conditioner, yeah, it gets it
Conditioner, I
out.
can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then we were talking too, so we run off rainwater. And we're doing pretty good. You know, maybe so rainwater, not only drinking rainwater, but using it to shower and all that stuff, wash dishes and everything for about 9 months out of the year. Living in the Pacific Northwest, we're able to do that. But we somehow, some way ran out of water.
It's a mystery.
Yeah, we don't know how we ran out of rainwater, but so we had to go back to tap water. And now I'm so weird because I'm telling you, all I can smell is the chlorine. And it is so strong. And so we started talking about that, and I was like, well, even if I don't use soap, but I use tap water, like that chlorine kills bacteria. Like that's what chlorine, that's why they put it in the water, is to kill the bacteria. So if you're showering with tap water, you are killing your body's bacteria.
Well, did we see that on Joe Rogan about IQ? Like
fluoride.
That
was fluoride. Yeah, Joe Rogan and Gary Brecka.
Aren't we just talking about fluoride in the water?
Chlorine.
Oh, but fluoride's in the water too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I mean, you know, I don't know how much fluoride you absorb through your skin.
I don't either.
But I was just tripping out, and this is what I'm saying about reality and getting weird. Like I would have kicked my own ass like 15 years ago for thinking these thoughts. But it's like, so now I'm like, I couldn't wait for those rain barrels to fill up so we could turn it back on in the house, because like I'm thinking like, so if you have tap water in your house, chlorine kills your body's bacteria, and God forbid you drink that stuff, because now you've got chlorine going through your gut, killing your gut bacteria, and you've got fluoride
making you dumb.
And I didn't know this, but I think it was Gary Brecka and Joe Rogan were talking about, there's a study that says the more fluoride is in the water is like
related to a lower IQ.
Yeah, it's totally proportional. The more fluoride you have, the lower IQ the city has. So, and it also says it blocks your pituitary, your third eye, you know, all that stuff. So it's like, yeah, I couldn't wait to get the rainwater back on, because I'm freaked out now about all this stuff that's happening. But along the same lines, you know what I was tripping out about is, talk about being in the Matrix, is we've been doing this hydroponics thing. And I was thinking, like, if you wanted to make a movie called Idiocracy, and you were like, you know, you were somebody from like, say, 1820, and you came here modern day, and you were like, do you guys have a garden? And you'd be like, a garden? I don't have a garden. I buy my food at the store. You know what I mean? At the store, you buy your food at the store, and then you go to the store and you're like, what is this shit? And you'd be like,
try it.
Well, you'd be like, I know why you guys are all malnourished. And you'd be like, why? The food in the store is no good. No, the food in the store is good. It's fine. Like, no, it's not. But then even on top of that, like, don't you, this has been blowing my mind the last couple of days, is like, we're learning hydroponics. And I'm so dumb that I don't know how to get seeds. I mean, like, okay, butternut squash, yeah, no problem. But like, we have pak choi growing, and I'm like, how do I get seeds from pak choi? I could
like,
be
you're supposed to know that.
It's a
generational gap. They quit telling us things. This is part of the problem. Like, we're no longer teaching our children functional things.
I'm gonna die. But this is that's what the movie Idiocracy is about.
Yeah.
They put Gatorade or whatever on their plants. That's what we're doing right now. Is I don't know how to start a fire with rocks. That's crazy. We've known how to do that for hundreds of thousands of years. And like how to get seeds from pak choi, like that should be really obvious, right? That should be obvious.
It should be.
But this is how dumb we are. And this is what I'm saying is like, this has to be all by design, is like to not know how to grow your food. Like we've talked about this, like how do you starve citizens? Well, you make it so they don't know how to provide for themselves. But that's what we talk about, is like we're eating almost all of our foods off hydroponics now. And okay, so you could shut our power off, and I don't even know if that would kill us. But we could just grow our own food now. And like that's what I'm saying. I'm learning, which is ridiculous. I'm learning how to get seeds from pak choi. Once I know how to get seeds from all my food, what are you going to do? You can't limit my seeds. I've got rain, I got water, and then the sun. Like we can all, how come, why would anybody starve? You can, unless you're being pushed from your locations.
Yeah.
If you have the same location, you can just grow vegetables and just eat vegetables. But not even that. Like this is another step of how dumb we are. People have been eating mushrooms, fungus, or foraging. And this is what I'm saying. Like we have chickens. Our chickens walk around and they somehow just know how to eat. How come we don't know how to do that? We don't even know how to just eat. We're not even as smart as chickens.
Yeah.
True. Deer. There are deer that walk around here that just eat. Nobody's telling them. They're just like, oh, well, we'll just eat this. But we are like, we're going to take your food away. You're like, oh, I'm so hungry. I can't figure. But meanwhile, you can buy a book on how to forage, and you can find that there's like a million things like just growing that you can eat. Maybe if you live in like Phoenix, Arizona, that's going to be a little rough. You have to learn cactus or something.
Mexico, yeah.
But I mean, around here, like you should be like, think about that too. That's funny. Like if there are people on welfare, like starving people, how many apples and blackberries go to waste every year around here?
For sure.
You can
just go to parks and live off apples.
Well, yeah, there's this park down the road. Now, how many apples were on the ground?
Thousands.
Thousands of apples.
Thousands of apples were on the
ground. Thousands. And like blackberries, like there's no amount of people or animals that can eat all the blackberries around here.
You know what I've started tripping out about a little bit is that I think that if you understand like the foods that grow in your area, actually, I think if you knew how to eat them, you wouldn't get sick. Like I think that foods that are provided in your like ecosystem keep you well.
Like a honey.
And I think we've fucked that up too.
Well, I mean, there's
because I'm talking about natural things that grew in your area were there, and if you ate them, it could like keep you healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the funny thing too, is I don't know, like you got to have the nutrition. And I feel like there's been a difference since we've started eating, that there's like, I feel like I'm nourished. That's what I was telling you is I used to eat, at least twice a day. I'd eat a decent sized breakfast and a decent sized dinner, and I'd snack a little bit here and there. But I have been eating basically breakfast, which is like a ton of vegetables. I get like a whole, like literally a pile, like, how do you explain that? Like 8 to 10 inches tall and 8 to 10 inches around, like a giant pile of vegetables. And I cook them, and vegetables cook down to nothing basically. And then 6 eggs. And I'm usually so full for the rest of the day now. Why am I full? Because that is not a lot of food.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been eating much either.
Because nutrients. I think my body is like, dude, okay, we got some vitamins. I'm not hungry anymore. But if you eat, bread or spaghetti, like you're just hungry in 5 minutes.
Well, yeah, it's known that those like trigger something in your brain that makes you hungry immediately after you have it, or craving more.
But I think it's because you're not getting nourished either. I think your body's like, I need some vitamins. Eat until I can find the vitamins.
Yeah, I think we've lost touch with our bodies talking to us too. Like I do think that your your emotions are talking to you, your
Yeah,
body is talking to you, and I think we have zero like understanding of what it's saying to us.
yeah. That's an interesting one because I think you're right. Especially with like when you sense danger or something. I think that's like a good example of how you should listen to yourself. But then there's also that thing I talk about, like the flat earthers are like, dude, it's obvious we're like standing on something. There's no such thing as gravity. We're just standing right side up. Like if you're on the bottom of the earth, you just fall off. That doesn't make any sense. Like there's this like simple thinking also, which is
Well, this is
weird.
where the losing touch thing comes into. Like cavemen, I don't think we're thinking about flat Earth.
No.
Like I don't even think there was a like outcasted caveman that was like, I think the Earth is flat. I think these are things like we've lost touch with a senses that we've had, emotional, physical. Like I think our bodies absolutely talk to you and tell you what you need, but we're like we because of the store thing and everything else, we've just lost touch with that part of our existence.
Yeah, man. I think the way for humans to live is like the Native Americans. I think you live in a teepee and you hunt and you gather. I think that is ideal, and I think that is where you'd find happiness.
I think you're probably right.
Hanging out with your family, and other families that are basically like family
Yeah,
in groups of 50 to 100 people, maybe support each other. And I think that would be the ultimate human.
I think so too.
But that makes you think about like what, like I was just thinking like what happened with Christopher Columbus when he's like the world's round, and then I'm thinking like, well, did that even fucking happen? Is this just a story that never even happened anyway? Right? Like kind of like Thanksgiving. Like Christopher Columbus was like, "Hey Indians, thanks for everything. Like let's have dinner together." Like what is this? What are we implying? That didn't happen, right? Like what is? I don't even know what Thanksgiving is, but and then you think about like what happened when the colonials came over here and they were like, "Hey, Native Americans, you're not living this way anymore." Like, no, you cut your hair and go to school, and because that's what like the control was. That's like we can't have you providing for yourselves and hunting and
Yeah,
gathering,
yeah.
and that's what I'm talking about right now. Is like, why don't I know how to get seeds from plants? Because they've been successful at this whole deal.
Enslaving for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
and
they
that's where.
have.
But now we're all kind of waking up, and like I'm like, oh shit, like I got to figure out how to get water and food and
Yeah,
going backwards, which is actually forwards.
yeah. Interesting. It is actually forwards.
Well, and that's the funny thing, though, is where we're at today. I think a lot of people are thinking like how much has been taken from us, but that's what you and I talk about is like how much more abundant are we today because we've had things quote unquote taken from us. Like I don't know though. I mean, maybe we should give ourselves some credit on that because we pushed ourselves pretty good and made some pretty good changes. But again, I don't know if COVID never came around. I don't know how many of those changes would have happened. Maybe.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's hard to say.
Yeah, everything all kind of falls in line, which is interesting too.
It is.
Which is interesting because if you talk about like I get a cold and it's negativity, I'm on Facebook and all that stuff, and it's all like I'm being directed towards Negativeville, USA. But then how come like when you look back on life, you're like, oh, it all worked out. Like how do you have like it's pushing me negative direction, but then like you zoom out and you're like, oh, it's all okay.
Well, it's funny because I was watching a thing on Buddhists today, and part of Buddhism is getting out of the what do you call it? The starts with an S and I can't even think of it. Basically torment, but that's not what they call it. The human mind causes you to basically torment yourself, and to get out of this, a big part of it. What were we talking about? Because I completely lost it when I was trying to think of that word.
Just how you zoom out and like life put you in the right spots, but if you zoom in, it's like it's directing you in the wrong places.
So Buddhism is all about allowing, the art of allowing and flowing and being at peace with the dark times as good as the light times, knowing that it's just all going to go in a certain direction either way. That's where I was going with that. So it does always seem to, it's impermanent too. Nothing's permanent, which is something you could actually find solace in if you allow yourself to.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Actually, like if you think about it, it's the I'm not sure that life is taking me in the wrong direction, but I think it's me trying to control the direction that drives me crazy. You know, like being okay with not feeling good when you're sick and being okay with being addicted to Facebook when you don't have the will and the energy to get off. That's, that would be the trick around that, right? Like you're talking about.
It is. That is the being kind to yourself in those dark times as well as light time.
Yeah. And like I say, things have not been working out in my life. Like I can't get anything done and just being like, and that's kind of how I have been, but when like the trucks just keep backing up and then dumping their shit and you're like, okay, well there's like the 10th truckload of shit. And then now you're at the 20th and you're like, okay, like I'm doing pretty good. And then like you're on truck 1,000, you're like, I'm still doing okay, I think. I think that's where I'm at. Is like I feel like I've never just been at this level of like things not working out.
Do you think that there could be a message in that, possibly, to you?
Well, I think that's what I'm talking about is being okay with it. But at the same time, my imagination says that this is what I'm talking about is it's kind of like all by design, like everything's getting crazier, and it's like this chaos is designed to take you into the fall of Rome. Like it wants to take everybody. And in order for you not to go, like
You have to go to 5D reality.
Well, you need to keep upping your game on a daily basis. You need to like exponentially be going better. And when you're better today, get ready because tomorrow is like going to be a whole new, like, we're going to mess with you.
Yeah, but what if the better is going, I accept this the way it is. Today is shitty and I'm going to be kind to myself and I know this is not permanent.
No, but that's the thing is like I go okay, like I come to that realization you just talked about. And I'm like, okay, like we're just gonna be okay with it. But then tomorrow is like 1,000 more different challenges, and you're like, whoa, like. I mean, this is what we've been talking about. Is like I've been tripping out about going into the Vancouver, Portland area, and like just observing people. And this is what we've been talking about. Is it is getting crazier almost on a daily basis at this point.
Yeah, it is.
Every week I go in there, I am like, whoa, this is getting so out of control.
What if you knew without a doubt that it's a movie? Could you just watch it without concern?
I don't know. I don't know because it's like it's what we talk about where like why are you reactive? If somebody comes up and they're like, "Hey, you want to fight?" And like me sitting here right now, I'd be like, I wouldn't say anything. I would just be like, okay, I just walk away, or whatever. I'd do something very calm. But there's the human instinct that you can't, or it's harder to control.
Well, there is fight or flight that can be triggered if you are feeling like you're in danger. So then there's a response happening in your body, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, that's how I envision, like, oh, I know it's a movie, but my body and my brain reacts, and so it's like, oh, it's like,
I get it.
It's like a whole different thing. Like, you can prepare yourself. You can be like, okay, I'm going to go to the grocery store, and I know there's somebody that's going to push me and want to fight, and here's how I'm going to. When you go and you get pushed, and it's like, then your body, like your brain. This is what we talk about, is like, sometimes you're not really you. A lot of times you're not really you. Like when I was sick, I wasn't me. I was having negative thoughts, and I was a different person. And it's what we talk about. Like, if your hormone levels are off, you're not the same person. Like you were, who you are is pretty much decided by what your brain is doing and what you're putting into it, and blah blah blah. But that's the same thing as like going into the Portland, Vancouver area and seeing things, as my body and my brain are responding, and I think they're sending chemicals and they're sending signals, and I'm like trying to combat that with like, whoa, be calm. Like,
what if you just allowed it to happen?
But that's what I'm saying. I think you still get like the adrenaline. I think you still get the.
Yeah, I think you do. But what if that's okay?
It is okay, but I think that's what causes the emotion.
It is weird out there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. If anybody's watching or listening to this, and like you're not from this area, you don't understand. You do not understand. I don't think.
No, because I can go to Alaska, and it's a very peaceful feeling.
Well, we went on vacation last year.
Yeah.
Everywhere we went was, man, just like, yeah, sure, people are weird,
but like normal weird, like,
yeah,
like used to, you'd like run into a weird person at a weird gas station. Like normal, like life's always been. Here, weird is like a movie.
It's way worse than that.
It's worse than a movie?
Yeah.
Like a horror movie?
Oh, I'm pretty close to saying these people are zombies, aren't you?
Yeah, yes.
I mean, like, it's so strange. It is so strange to see these people, and they're acting like it's normal. Like, what, like a good example. So we went to Walmart. Probably shouldn't admit that, but we went to Walmart. We usually do, and those two like trans guys. Like, that was the weirdest experience, and not because, well, it was because they were trans, but because they were like, the way I explain it is like there was like two, what do you think, like 40-year-old men that like, this is how it appears to me. There's like two 40-year-old men that couldn't get laid. They seemed very masculine to me, like very manly. But like they were sitting on their couch and like, hey bro, do you want to like be gay and get some huge boobs? Like, it seems like that's the conversation they had with each other. So we saw these people at Walmart, and like they were kind of like joking around with each other, like a couple of dudes would do with each other. But then they had these like, their boobs were like huge, weren't they? When they like massive, like, and they were like showing them off, and you're just like, dude, this is the weirdest thing. Is that not how am I making that all up? That's what I'm saying, is like you're just watching a football game with your friend, and you're like, dude, there are no chicks around here. And he's like, I know. There's
want to go get some boobs?
Yeah, you want to get some boobs and be gay with me? Like, fuck, I got nothing else to do. Let's go get some boobs, and then we'll wear like low cut shirts and show these giant boobs off with our 5 o'clock shadow. And then we'll drink some beer, watch football, and have sex with each other. And it's like, what is happening? What is happening?
It's a lot more than that. I mean, that's just a piece of it. There's a lot more going on than that.
But that's what I'm saying. Like that's not even a movie. That's way worse than a movie. You know what I mean? Like a movie would be like that would never happen. If you made a movie, you'd be like all this stuff we see. You'd be like it's unbelievable. You wouldn't why don't like make this make believe bullshit movie, right? None of this stuff that we see would even happen in a movie. I don't know. It's like listen, man. But that's what I'm saying is if you never lived here or you don't know. Like listen to this. So here's a good example, right? So my children's mother is dating a guy that lives in Portland. And so this guy that she's dating lives in a very popular area of Portland. And I guess, parking's a nightmare, like a lot of big cities. But I guess there's this like 90-year-old China guy, and he like makes signs. And so he makes signs and he puts them in parking spots. Like, do not park here, like restaurant parking only. He'll like put stuff like that. And they're just bullshit. But my son was telling me that he doesn't even own a car. So he just makes these signs so people don't park in places or whatever. But he's telling me all this drama that's happening with this 90-year-old Chinese guy, where like, I guess this Chinese guy, if somebody parks there, like he'll slash their tires. And so now there's like some, what is it? I don't remember what it was. Some bakery or something moved in and they got permission to park where they do. Then this Chinese guy says you can't park there. And so he slashes their tires. And so now this bakery or whatever who moved in is like got this hoodlum slash his tires or something. I don't know. And it's like all this. It's like what is like this is what I'm saying. Like what's happening, man? What's happening?
Yeah.
And it's like some 90-year-old dude that's like insane or something, and like there's people like battling him. You know what I mean? Like what? I was like, dude, you guys are all so dramatic and weird and.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of drama.
Yeah, it's all mental illness is what it is. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's all around.
But anyway, yeah, visit Portland so you can know what we're talking about.
I mean, I think it's well known, and I've seen several movies that make fun of Portland, so I think.
But do you know? Like, if you don't
No.
live here, do you even have a clue?
No, they just have a tiny bit of an idea of what Portland used to be like.
Yeah.
Now it's like zombie land.
So here's the question: like, so if you had like a right wing person that's worried about the survival of our country and all this stuff, I assume most people like that. Like people from the Midwest and maybe from the South. Like, if they came to Portland and they saw what, like, do you think like the world would be a different place if people understood what Portland was like? Does that make sense? Do you think people would be like, holy shit, I didn't know it was this bad. We need to do something now. Like we need to.
Yeah,
like,
I think some people would do that. I think other people would just avoid the problem.
Yeah, I just wonder if like people would start taking because I think a lot of people are like worried about our country, man. I'm worried that we're going the wrong direction, and I'm like, we're fucked.
I think some people would, but I think other people would just ignore it.
Yeah. Well,
like anything else. Just like there's your COVID masking people, and then there's us, and then there's the people who are like the other extreme. Same thing with discovering Portland.
Yeah. Anyway, it's weird. I don't know what we talked about tonight, but
A lot of stuff.
yeah.
Life.
Hopefully, somebody found it interesting, and
I'm sure our 6 viewers found it amazing. Or 4, with 4 to 6.
yeah. I mean, if you think this is interesting, or if you have anything to add to it, Maybe
Or
drop a
if you live
comment.
in the area, man, chat with us. We'd love to hear your experience.
Yeah, even if you're weird, you probably are. We're the only normal people that live here. All right. So anyway, I guess that's good for this week, right?
Yeah, that's good for this week.
Okay. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Comment. Uh, unless I'm sick, I'm not on Facebook, and even if I'm sick, I'm not doing flirting with realities on Facebook. Really, pretty much over that. So Spotify, YouTube, flirting with realities, and I guess just comment on YouTube. That'd be how you gotta get a hold of us and chat with us and stuff. Let us know if you like the content or whatever. Yep.